Do you read Stephen King? Good news, there's a club for you. The Losers Club. Every Friday, us losers journey through the never-ending wastelands of King's Dominion. We sink our teeth into each of King's novels, dive deep into the lore, and review every adaptation. Even better, we're always having guests over. Thomas Jane, Will Wheaton, Mary Lambert, Mick Garris, the list goes on. So what are you waiting for? Join us as we read on through long days and pleasant nights.
It's easy to hear your favorite artist on WFPK from wherever you are. Listen on your smart speaker, live stream from our website at WFPK.org, from Louisville Public Media.
Consequence Podcast Network.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith With. It's an audio interview series presented by WFPK Independent Louisville at WFPK.org, Consequence of Sound, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Wherever you're listening from today, I hope you take that moment to hit the subscribe button to keep up with the series. We release new interviews every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists and what they're up to these days. And of course, you can do that wherever you get your podcast from. Just type in Kyle Meredith With, hit that subscribe button. That also includes places like Spotify and YouTube as well. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for joining us every week. Maybe you'll get inspired to, give the series a rating, leave a review. That whole song and dance. Speaking of song and dance, today I've got an absolute songwriting legend as my guest, Desmond Child. Let me just go ahead and rattle off a few of the songs that Desmond Child has co-written. I Was Made for Loving You, Kiss, I Hate Myself for Loving You, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Bon Jovi's You Give Love a Bad Name, Livin On a Prayer and Bad Medicine, Aerosmith's Dude Looks Like a Lady, Angel, What It Takes, Crazy, Alice Cooper's Poison, Ricky Martin's Livin la Vida Loca, She Bangs, Hanson's Weird. He has written with Hilary Duff, Selena Gomez, Kelly Clarkson, and most recently Barbra Streisand. If you are a child of the 80s or 90s or have listened to popular music since then, you know so many of Desmond Child's songs. He has certainly soundtracked my life. I got my first kiss to Aerosmith's Crazy, a moment provided by Desmond Child. Although I do hope that moment would have happened regardless, but it was there. And after all this time, he has just now released his own live album. It's called Desmond Child Live. It catches him on a night in New York where he goes through just a fraction of the hits. It's 12 tracks on here with a few medleys in there, with Desmond telling some great stories behind the songs and leading plenty of sing-alongs while he's at it. So Desmond and I are going to talk about, what took so long to release an album with a catalog this massive. In fact, it's a moment that ties into his just completed autobiography that's going to be coming out next year. He'll tell us about that as well. And we'll hear about a few of these songs too. He does reference Livin On a Prayer, as well as the moments that go all the way back to the beginning of his career with Rouge. I get to ask him about working with his mentor after the band broke up, a songwriter named Bob Crewe, and what he learned from that. There must be a trick. What's the trick to being able to write that many massive hits? Over 80 top Billboard songs. And beyond all of that, as if it wasn't enough, he's also a part of a new movie. It's called Transcon, and it centers in on Lou Pearlman, famous for putting together the boy bands of the 90s, and also infamous for being very corrupt about it while he was at it, landing himself in prison, which is where he ended up dying. So Desmond's going to take us through that project, and maybe when that'll be seeing the light of day as well. But again, we'll start with the live album, Desmond Child Live. It's Kyle Meredith with Desmond Child. Hi, Desmond. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
It's a pleasure to talk to you. Happy birthday, sir.
Thank you.
We got that yesterday.
I'm on Route 66. That's what they say.
Man, it has been so much fun.
66.
Yeah. Well, no,
I don't look 66.
You absolutely don't. I saw the pictures. I wouldn't have guessed that.
I call that Botoxydermy.
I have to remember that one. Thank you for that. Man, it is such a pleasure to talk to you, and it's been so much fun listening to this record with Desmond Child Live and hearing all of these songs. With a catalog this big, though, why did it take till now? Was there any specific reason that you said now is the time to release this album?
It's kind of when you turn a corner in your life, and, I spent the last 3.5 years co-writing my autobiography with David Ritz. It's called Livin On a Prayer, Big Songs, Big Life. It'll be out this spring. And, it's painful to look back, man. It's not fun. It was hard to write this But, I also looked at, God, I've worked my butt off making my career. And I just started to feel like, I want to get back on a stage because I started out that way with my group, Desmond Child and Rouge, in the late 70s. And we had made 2 albums on Capitol Records. And I decided to go back to New York City, where we used to play all these little clubs. And I found this beautiful jewel of a club called Feinstein's 54 Below under Studio 54. It's underground. And got all of my friends, all the same troupe from back in the day. Even Rouge came back. And we made this record, and it was a lot of fun, and also like the versions are not like all blown up, it's kind of like more stripped down, kind of how it was when we wrote them.
Yeah, and that's the way I heard it too. Like this is probably the closest I get to the fly on the wall moment for those creations.
Yeah, and also I tell stories, and all that. I didn't put that much of the stories, on the record, but I do spill the dirt, in my show.
What with as many, because as it's written, you've got 80 Billboard hits, and then some to go along with that. Was there like the hardest songs to cut? Was there one you're like, I wish I could get this on here, but it's just too much?
The show could only be so long, and I was. I wish that I had done Poison, the song I co-wrote with Alice Cooper. Or a song like What It Takes. But I just had to kind of limit it, and so maybe there'll be a Desmond Child Live 2 coming in the future with the rest of them.
Yeah, I would love to hear that. There were some surprises on here, like hearing you do the song Weird that you co-wrote with Hanson. I don't think I would have expected that one, and I love the version that you did with that. I would say, and I need to tell you this, actually. I got my first kiss to the song Crazy, Aerosmith's Crazy, which, that must be one of the things that you hear a lot of times, like having these kind of songs that you must get that story a lot, like first kiss, first dance, first whatever.
First whatever. That's why a lot of kids are named Desmond.
No, it is amazing.
Yeah, it's like we get so many letters from people that, especially with Living on a Prayer, that meant so much to them in their life. And we once got a letter from a guy that was going to kill himself. So he drives up to the bridge and he just jumps out of the car, leaves the car on, radio on, and door open, and he goes to jump out. And Livin' on a Prayer comes on the radio, and that was his favorite song. So he gets back in the car. He says, well, this will be the last song I hear. And by the time it got to the chorus at the end, he drove home.
Wow.
So Bon Jovi saves lives.
Yeah, and Desmond Child saves lives. That's a part of that. Your mentor, and I want to make sure I say his name right. Is it Bob Crewe? Is that how you say it?
Bob Crewe.
Yeah.
Bob Crewe, legendary Bob Crewe. At a certain point, I had my group and Desmond Child and Rouge, and we broke up after doing our 2 albums on Capitol for a lot of reasons. I think we were too immature and crazy to stick together. But I decided to do a solo career, and so Bob Crewe had moved to New York, and he had produced all the songs for the Jersey Boys. Like, they're not the Jersey Boys; they're called the Four Seasons. Uh-huh. But they made a Broadway show and a movie called Jersey Boys, and Bob Crewe's a character in it. And he taught me all about songwriting, and so it was really like songwriting, doctorate that I got working with him.
And for that to lead here, that's what I wondered. Like, I don't know if there's a formula, but what was there anything specific that you learned from him that did lead you to be able to write so many hits? Well,
I used to, sit at the piano and kind of play some chords and improvise, mumble around, and hope that those mumbles sounded like words, and then I'd pick something and then build something out of it. He wouldn't even start a song unless we had an amazing title. And he taught me that, you write the script first before you film the movie, right? And then the music comes later, it's the scoring, because the music should enhance the meaning of what you write. So, he taught me how to write titles that had irony, like "You Give Love a Bad Name," "I Hate Myself for Loving You," "Heaven's on Fire." These titles write themselves.
What a great way to set that up, and iconic titles on top of that. I want to ask before you get out of here, so you've got the live album, Desmond Child Live, you've got the autobiography on the way, and there's also a movie too, right?
Yes, my close friend and collaborator, Andreas Carlson, who co-wrote a bunch of songs for the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. Back in 1998, when I first met him, he was young, and he came to see me because he was on like a kind of what they call like pilgrimage to meet anybody who had anything to do with Kiss. And so he came to see me, and he told me about Lou Pearlman, who had created a whole, company built on boy bands in Orlando, and they called it O-Town, like Motown. And so I said, that should be a movie. That's so interesting. But then the story got better and better and better. I mean, eventually the feds caught up with him because he had perpetuated a $500 million Ponzi scheme that bankrolled the whole operation.
Right.
And so, we optioned a book called The Hit Charade by Tyler Gray and a Vanity Fair article called Mad About the Boys. And we have partners now, Ed Pressman Film, Greg Basser, Gentle Giant, and David Anton Partners. And we're making a movie. We're making a scripted movie about Lou Pearlman. And, it's called Transcon, because that was the name of his company, Transcon, The Making of Lou Pearlman and the Boy Band Revolution.
I'll look forward to watching that one. And in the meantime, again, so enjoying this live album, Desmond Child Live. Thank you so much for the music and the soundtrack to all of our lives.
Well, thank you for listening, and also keep listening. And, it's so great. I go to a Bon Jovi concert, and there are people there, all generations, that, have made their music. It's like a part of them. And they wait till the very end because John waits to the very last encore, the very last song of the last encore to sing Livin On a Prayer. So no one will leave, and that stadium stays full till they hear that song. And then when they do play it, you can't even hear the band because the audience is singing so loud. So I love that.
Yeah, beautiful moments. Thank you so much, Desmond.
Thank you.
A humongous thanks, legendary songwriter Desmond Child, the new live album, Desmond Child Live, and the autobiography on the way called Livin On a Prayer, Big Songs, Big Life. And thanks to you for checking out the series as well. Again, if you're already a subscriber, give the series a rating, leave a review, or just something in the comment box about what you liked about the interview. If you're not a subscriber, hit that button before you get out of here to keep up with all of your favorite artists, what they're up to, and the new interviews we release every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Again, you can subscribe anywhere you get your favorite podcasts from, including iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, Podchaser, Acast, NPR, etc., etc., etc. After that, you can head to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, and bonus interviews. WFPK.org. Consequence of Sound has your music and film news. You can also find me at Twitter at Kyle Meredith and Facebook /Kyle Meredith. And that does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.
Consequence Podcast Network.